Richard Milhouse Nixon was born on January 9, 1913, in a modest, self-built lemon ranch house in Yorba Linda, California, a rural Quaker hamlet of approximately 1,000 residents. The town, nestled among 50 acres of citrus groves, was irrigated by 20 ditches and connected by 10 dusty trails, embodying a sparse, agricultural existence. Nixon was the second of 5 sons born to Francis Anthony Frank Nixon and Hannah Milhouse Nixon. Frank, a volatile Quaker who had left a 5-acre farm in Vinton, Ohio, chasing California's promise, struggled to manage a 500-tree lemon ranch that lost $5,000 annually, plunging the family into $2,000 of debt by 1920. A former streetcar motorman and carpenter, Frank's temper and financial missteps, including a failed 1918 Orange Grove investment costing $1,500, strained the household. Hannah, a serene and devout Quaker from a strict Ohio family of 10 siblings, was the family's moral compass. She taught her sons 20 Bible verses weekly, knitted 50 sweaters and 100 socks yearly, baked 100 loaves of bread and 50 pies monthly, and led 50 nightly rosary prayers in their 5-room clapboard home. The house, built by Frank in 1912 for $1,200, had no indoor plumbing, relying on a single outhouse, a wood-burning stove, 2 oil lamps, and a hand-pumped well serving 10 families within a 1-mile radius. Yorba Linda's 20 farms, 5 Quaker meeting houses, and 2 general stores shaped Nixon's early years, but tragedy marked his childhood. His eldest brother, Harold, contracted tuberculosis in 1931 and died in 1933 at age 23 after a 2-year battle costing $5,000, 20 hospital visits to sanitariums in Los Angeles and San Bernardino, and 50 doctor consultations. His infant brother, Arthur, died at age 1 in 1925 from a stomach ailment, possibly tubercular meningitis, after 5 doctor visits and 10 days in a Whittier hospital. These losses left 12-year-old Richard with profound survivor's guilt, a weight he carried while milking 10 cows daily at 5 a.m., hauling 50 crates of lemons and oranges for his father's failing grocery, and tending to 200 chickens that yielded 1,000 eggs monthly but only $1,000 in annual revenue. By 1922, the family's bankruptcy, exacerbated by a $1,500 loan default and 5 creditor demands, forced a relocation 20 miles to Whittier, a Quaker enclave of 5,000 with 10 meeting houses, 200 citrus farms, 50 oil wells, and a burgeoning economy driven by 20 packing houses and 10 rail depots. Frank opened a grocery gas station at the corner of Santa Gertrude's and Whittier Boulevard, stocking 500 cans of beans, tomatoes, and peaches, operating 20 gasoline pumps, selling 100 gallons daily at 15 cents per gallon, and storing 10 oil drums. The venture earned $1,200 yearly but faced 5 creditor lawsuits by 1925, including a $500 claim from a local supplier. Education and formative influences. Young Richard, a wiry boy with intense blue eyes and a shock of dark hair, attended East Whittier Friends School, a 2-room schoolhouse with 100 students and 5 teachers. There, he memorized 50 Quaker testimonies on simplicity and peace, 20 hymns like "Blessed Be the Tie That Binds," 10 psalms including Psalm 23, and 5 prayers, including the Lord's Prayer. Yet, he quietly rebelled against Quaker pacifism, hiding 100 adventure novels by Horatio Alger, e.g., Ragged Dick, 20 history books on Napoleon, Lincoln, and Caesar, and 10 biographies of Theodore Roosevelt in an attic trunk. In a 10-page notebook, he sketched 50 battle maps of Waterloo and Gettysburg, 20 fort plans inspired by the Alamo, and 5 imaginary campaign strategies, revealing an early fascination with power and conflict. At home, he practiced oratory, reciting 20 Lincoln speeches and 10 Shakespeare soliloquies to his brothers before a 5-foot mirror, honing a voice that neighbors called commanding at age 10. At Whittier High School, Nixon's talents shone. He joined the debate team, winning 20 contests with 10 speeches on historical figures like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton, arguing topics like, resolved, the federal government should subsidize 10 railroads. As a 140-pound lineman on the football team, he endured 50 tackles and 5 concussions per season across 10 games, earning the nickname Iron Man from coach Wallace Newman despite a 2-8 team record. After school, he worked 10-hour shifts at Frank's store, stocking 200 shelves with 500 cans, 100 jars of jam, and 50 sacks of flour, earning $2 weekly. Graduating second in his 200-student class of 1930, he delivered a commencement speech reciting 50 lines of Cicero's first oration against Catiline, earning applause from 500 attendees at the 1,000-seat Whittier Auditorium. Nixon's academic prowess deepened at Whittier College, a Quaker institution 1 mile from home, where he pedaled a 10-speed bicycle daily along a 2-mile dirt path. Majoring in history and minoring in English, he earned A's in 50 courses, 20 on constitutional law, including 5 on Marbury versus Madison, 10 on international relations, focusing on the 1919 Versailles Treaty, 10 on colonial history, analyzing 5 Puritan charters, and 5 on political philosophy, studying Locke and Montesquieu. As captain of the debate team, he led 15 victories over 5 years, orating on 20 topics, 10 on U.S. tariffs, 5 on the League of Nations, and 5 on prohibition, before 1,000 audiences across 50 towns, including Pasadena and Santa Ana. Elected president of the Orthogenean Society, a 200-member conservative club, he organized 10 plays annually, including Our Town, and 5 lectures by local pastors. During a 1934 tryout for the Dark Tower, he met Thelma Catherine "Pat" Ryan, a radiant redhead born March 16, 1912, in Ely, Nevada. Pat, a 1931 Whittier graduate and lead in 5 dramas, worked as a 30-pupil typing teacher at Whittier High. Their 18-month courtship included 50 dates at 20 soda fountains, notably Cress's 5-cent malt shop, 10 picnics at Griffith Park with 5 homemade pies, 5 dances at the 200-seat Whittier Ballroom, and 2 moonlight walks along the 1-mile Pointe Hills Trail. They married on June 21, 1940, at Whittier's Methodist Church, attended by 200 guests, with 50 roses, 20 ushers, 10 hymns like "Oh Promise Me," and Pat in a $50 lace gown sewn by Hannah over 20 nights using 10 yards of fabric. Graduating second in his 100-student class of 1934 with a 3.9 GPA, Nixon won a $500 scholarship to Duke University School of Law in Durham, North Carolina. Living in a 10-by-10-foot dorm with 5 roommates, he studied 20 hours daily in the 50,000-volume law library, mastering 20 casebooks on torts, 10 on contracts, and 5 on constitutional law. As a member of the Barristers Club, he argued 10 mock trials on Fifth Amendment cases, winning 5 with arguments on self-incrimination. Graduating third in his 200-student class of 1937 with honors, he applied to 50 law firms, including Cravath, Swain and Moore and Sullivan and Cromwell, submitting 20 recommendation letters from professors and 5 from Whittier clergy. Rejections, often citing his rural hick background, stung. A New York partner wrote, "No room for small-town Quakers." Returning to Whittier, he joined Wingard and Bewley, a 5-lawyer firm, drafting 100 wills, 50 property deeds, 20 divorce cases, and 10 contracts for citrus growers annually, earning $2,000. Pat taught 30 pupils daily in Whittier High's commercial courses, earning $1,200. Their $3,200 income funded a 5-room bungalow at 1234 Sycamore Avenue with 2 bedrooms, a 10-foot porch, a 500-square-foot garden, and a 1929 Model T bought for $200. By 1943, they had 2 daughters, Patricia, Tricia, born February 21, 1946, and Julie, born July 5, 1948, both baptized in Whittier's 200-seat Quaker meeting house with 50 attendees and 10 hymns. World War II and public service beginnings. The December 7, 1941, attack on Pearl Harbor, which killed 2,403 and sank 10 ships, including the USS Arizona, thrust Nixon into public service. In January 1942, he joined the Office of Price Administration, OPA, in Washington, D.C., as an attorney enforcing 50 rationing rules, 200 tires monthly per 1,000 cars, 100 gallons of gas weekly per 500 drivers, and 20 pounds of sugar per 100 households. He audited 50 businesses monthly, including 20 tire dealers and 10 grocers, for $2,500 annually, living in a 300-square-foot Alexandria apartment with Pat for $50 monthly rent. On June 15, 1942, Nixon enlisted in the U.S. Navy as a lieutenant junior grade, training for 3 months at Quonset Point's Naval Air Station in Rhode Island with 500 cadets in 20 aviation courses, memorizing 50 flight manuals on PBY Catalinas and 10 on radio signals. Stationed at Ottumwa's Naval Reserve Aviation Base in Iowa until May 1943, he served as aide to Commander James B. Sykes, organizing 100 poker games that netted $10,000 from 50 officers over 20 nights, betting $5 pots, and managing 200 supply contracts for 50 planes, including 20 C-47s and 10 P-38s. In August 1943, Nixon was transferred to Bougainville in the Solomon Islands aboard the USS Montpelier, a 10,000-ton Cleveland-class cruiser with 1,000 crew, 15 6-inch guns, 12 5-inch guns, and 20 40mm anti-aircraft mounts. As a supply officer for SCAT, South Pacific Combat Air Transport, he handled 200 supply contracts for 50 PBY Catalinas, 50 logistics reports on 10 airfields, and 20 schedules for 5 runways amid 500 Japanese air raids, 100 kamikaze attacks, and 50 shellings. During the Treasury Bougainville operations, October-December 1943, and Northern Solomon's consolidation, December 1943 to July 1944, 20,000 U.S. Marines landed under 10,000 shells and 5,000 bombs, capturing 5 airfields and 2 ports. Nixon's logistics ensured 500 tons of fuel, 200 tons of food, and 100 tons of ammunition reached 10,000 troops monthly, earning him 2 battle stars and a Navy Commendation Medal for meritorious service under combat conditions. His 50 Pacific briefings on Soviet spies and 20 reports on Chinese communist movements shaped his anti-communist stance. Returning stateside in July 1945 to San Francisco's Naval Personnel Office, he processed 200 discharge papers monthly for 2,000 sailors, separating from active duty in March 1946 but remaining in the Naval Reserve until 1966, reaching lieutenant commander by 1953. Congressional rise and anti-communist zeal. Back in Whittier, 20 Republican leaders from the Committee of 100, impressed by Nixon's 50 wartime letters to local papers and 10 speeches at Rotary clubs, urged him to challenge Jerry Voorhis, a 10-term Democrat in California's 12th district, in 1946. Nixon campaigned relentlessly, delivering 100 speeches to 50,000 voters across 20 towns, focusing on 20 anti-communist themes, notably the 1945 Alger Hiss case, where he accused Hiss of Soviet ties in 50 interrogations before 1,000 spectators at Pomona College. Backed by 100 posters, 50 radio ads on KFI, and 20 billboards funded by $10,000 from oilman C. Pearson, Nixon won 65,586 votes to Voorhis's 49,431 in a district of 200,000, a 56% to 44% margin. As a congressman, 1947 to 1950, Nixon joined the House Un-American Activities Committee, WAC, chairing 10 hearings that probed 50 alleged communists, including 20 scientists, 10 union leaders, and 5 State Department officials. His most famous case was Alger Hiss in August 1948. Nixon's 20 cross-examinations, using 10 microfilmed documents, 5 pumpkin papers hidden in a Maryland farm by Whittaker Chambers, and 2 Woodstock typewriters, proved Hiss's perjury, leading to a January 1950 conviction. The case earned Nixon the Tricky Dick nickname in 20 liberal cartoons in the New Republic but 100 front-page stories in 50 papers, including the New York Times and Los Angeles Times. Re-elected in 1948 with 100,000 votes, 69%, via 50 red-baiting ads, 20 billboards, and 10 rallies accusing opponent Carl Hinshaw of softness on communism, Nixon investigated 20 Hollywood blacklists, targeting 10 writers like Dalton Trumbo, 10 labor unions like the ILWU, and 5 atomic spy rings linked to the Rosenbergs, sponsoring 5 bills for 50 espionage probes and 20 loyalty oaths for 200,000 federal workers. In 1950, Nixon ran for the Senate against Representative Helen Gahagan Douglas, a three-term Democrat and actress. His campaign, dubbed the Pink Lady smear, tied her to 20 communist fronts and 10 Hollywood 10 figures in 200 radio spots, 50 billboards, and 20 pamphlets claiming she voted with Vito Marcantonio 354 times. Nixon won 1,202,438 votes to Douglas's 1,001,392, 59% to 41%, in a 2.2 million voter state, leveraging $50,000 from Standard Oil and 20 banks. As a senator, 1951 to 1953, he led 10 McCarthy-era probes, including the 1950 Tidings Committee, which cleared his but smeared 20 Democrats as pro-red in 5 reports. His 1951 trips to 5 Asian capitals, Tokyo, Seoul, Manila, Bangkok, Taipei, assessed 50,000 U.S. troops, 10 aid programs worth $500 million, and 20 bases, meeting 50 generals and 10 ambassadors. He co-sponsored 5 bills for 20 Marshall Plan audits and 10 NATO funding increases, delivering 20 Senate speeches on Soviet containment, vice presidency and global prominence. In 1952, Nixon faced a crisis when the New York Post revealed an $18,000 slush fund from 50 donors, including 10 oilmen and 5 bankers. His September 23 Checkers speech, a 30-minute TV address to 60 million, defended his integrity, citing his daughter's $20 Cocker Spaniel Checkers and Pat's respectable Republican cloth coat. Watched on 200,000 TVs, it swayed 50% of viewers per Gallup, securing his vice presidential spot with Dwight D. Eisenhower at the Republican National Convention, clinching 1,523 delegates against Robert Taft's 500. As vice president, 1953 to 1961, Nixon, at 40 the youngest since John C. Breckinridge in 1857, presided over 200 Senate ties, casting 20 tie-breaking votes on 50 bills, 10 on defense spending, e.g., $5 billion Air Force budgets, 5 on trade tariffs like the 1955 Reciprocal Trade Act, and 5 on housing for 200,000 veterans. He chaired 10 cabinet committees on 20 issues, including atomic energy, approving 5 reactors, Alaska statehood, past 1959, and 10 NASA programs for 50 satellites. Traveling 100,000 miles to 50 countries, he faced peril in Latin America. On May 13, 1958, in Caracas, a mob of 5,000 smashed 20 windows of his limo, threw 50 rocks, and chanted, "Nixon go home." A Venezuelan riot of 10,000 spat on him, slashed 5 tires, and burned 2 effigies, requiring 200 Marines to rescue him. His July 24, 1959, kitchen debate with Nikita Khrushchev in Moscow's Sokolniki Park, amid a U.S. exhibit of 20 kitchens, 50 cars, and 10 TVs, sparred over 10 consumer freedoms and 5 missile gaps before 100 reporters and 20 cameras. Broadcast in 50 countries, it boosted his Cold Warrior image in 50 editorials, including Times, Nixon stands up to Reds. Domestically, Nixon backed Eisenhower's 50 interstate highways, 1956 Highway Act, 41,000 miles, 20 civil rights bills, 1957 and 1960 acts, protecting 10 million black voters, and 10 NASA programs, including Apollo's $20 billion budget. He clashed with Eisenhower over 10 executive privilege claims, e.g., 1954 McCarthy hearings, and 5 budget vetoes, including a 1959 housing bill. A 1955 blood clot during a 10-day Moscow trip nearly killed him, requiring 5 doctors, 2 transfusions, and 20 days rest at Walter Reed, with 50 reporters camped outside. The 1960 presidential race against John F. Kennedy featured 4 televised debates watched by 70 million. Nixon's pale makeup, 5 o'clock shadow, and sweaty brow from a 100-degree fever and a 10-day knee infection contrasted Kennedy's tan and poise. Losing by 112,827 votes, 49.7% to 49.5%, amid 50 Chicago fraud claims involving 10,000 ballots and 20 precincts, Nixon conceded on November 8. Running for California governor in 1962, he lost 52% to 47% to Pat Brown, 2,978,770 to 2,740,351 votes, after 200 rallies and 50 TV ads. His November 7 last press conference at the Beverly Hilton blasted 20 reporters as commies before 100 spectators, vowing, "You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore." Wilderness years and presidential comeback. The wilderness years, 1962 to 1968, saw Nixon rebuild his image. Joining Nixon, Mudge, Rose, Guthrie and Alexander in New York, he earned $100,000 annually, advising 20 clients like PepsiCo on 50 trade deals, e.g., $10 million USSR exports, 10 mergers, and 5 tax cases for 200 corporations. He wrote 10 articles for Foreign Affairs, e.g., Asia after Vietnam, and 5 for Reader's Digest on 20 Cold War topics, including 10 on China and 5 on NATO. Stumping for Barry Goldwater in 1964, he delivered 100 speeches to 1 million across 50 states, refining a new Nixon image with 20 moderate pledges on civil rights and 10 on tax reform. In 1968, amid Vietnam's 500,000 U.S. troops, 20,000 deaths, 200 urban riots, e.g., Detroit's 43 deaths, and 100 assassinations, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, Nixon won the Republican nomination on August 8 in Miami with 1,328 delegates, 50 more than Nelson Rockefeller, after 200 primaries and 50 debates. His Law and Order campaign, with 200 rallies, 100 TV ads, and 50 radio spots on 20 stations, secured 301 electoral votes to Hubert Humphrey's 191 and George Wallace's 46, with 43.4% popular vote, 31,783,783 votes, in a 118,000 vote margin. Sworn in on January 20, 1969, before 200,000 on the Capitol steps, amid 50,000 anti-war protesters, 20 tanks, and 10 helicopters, Nixon vowed unity despite 5,000 tear gas canisters and 200 arrests. Presidency, achievements and controversies. Nixon's first term, 1969 to 1973, blended reform and conflict. His 50 new federalism policies allocated $10 billion yearly to 50 states via revenue sharing, empowering 200 governors and 1,000 mayors. He created the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in 1970, regulating 20 pollutants, e.g., DDT, 50 industries, e.g., coal, and 10 rivers like the Cuyahoga, with 5,000 staff and a $1 billion budget. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, established 1970, deployed 10,000 inspectors to enforce 20 workplace standards, reducing 50,000 injuries annually. His August 15, 1971, wage price freeze curbed 5% inflation but sparked 200 union strikes and 50 plant closures, costing 10,000 jobs. The 1972 food stamp expansion fed 10 million, adding 5 million recipients, while 20 drug war programs, including DEA creation, jailed 50,000 for 200,000 drug offenses by 1973. Foreign policy defined Nixon's legacy. The 1969 to 1972 Nixon Doctrine shifted 50 Asian allies, e.g., Japan, South Korea, to self-defense, withdrawing 500,000 Vietnam troops by 1973, from 543,000 to 24,000. Secret Cambodia bombings, Operation Menu, 1969 to 1970, dropped 100,000 tons on 50 sanctuaries, killing 50,000 civilians and 10,000 Khmer Rouge, sparking 200 Kent State protests on May 4, 1970, where National Guardsmen killed 4 students and wounded 9 with 67 shots. The May 8, 1972, Moscow summit with Leonid Brezhnev signed SALT, limiting 50 ICBMs, 20 submarines, and 10 warheads per side, and the ABM treaty capping 100 sites, 2 per nation. Nixon's February 21 to 28, 1972, China visit, the first by a U.S. president, involved 50 hours of talks with Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai, 20 banquets, 10 toasts, and 5 Great Wall visits, yielding the Shanghai Communique recognizing One China, opening $1 billion in trade, and 50 diplomatic channels. Re-elected in 1972 with 520 electoral votes to George McGovern's 17 and 60.7% popular vote, 47,168,710 votes, a 23.2% margin, Nixon crushed 200 Democratic campaigns with 50% approval per Gallup. Watergate and downfall. The Watergate scandal consumed Nixon's second term. On June 17, 1972, 5 burglars, James McCord, ex-CIA, Virgilio Gonzalez, Bernard Barker, Eugenio Martinez, and Frank Sturgis, broke into the Democratic National Committee, DNC, headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. They planted 5 bugs in 2 phones, photographed 20 documents with 10 Minix cameras, and stole 50 files, including 10 donor lists and 5 strategy memos. Funded by $250,000 from the committee to re-elect the president, CREEP, via 50 laundered checks through 20 Mexican banks and 20 cash drops in Miami, the break-in, orchestrated by E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy, aimed to sabotage McGovern's 200 campaign network with 50 dirty tricks, 10 forged letters framing Democrats as radicals, 20 fake polls inflating McGovern's lead, 5 cancelled rallies via prank calls, and 2 planted spies in DNC offices. Nixon's 1971 Plumbers Unit, a 50-man secret team under Hunt and Liddy, conducted 50 illegal operations to plug leaks like the Pentagon Papers, 10 break-ins, e.g., Ellsberg psychiatrist's office, 20 wiretaps on 5 journalists, 5 buggings of DNC aides, and 2 forgeries of cables implicating Kennedy in Vietnam coups. Nixon denied knowledge in 50 public statements, but the cover-up was catastrophic. The June 23, 1972, smoking gun tape, recorded in the Oval Office, captured Nixon ordering CIA Director Richard Helms to block the FBI's 50-agent probe with national security lies, citing Hunt's Bay of Pigs thing. He authorized $75,000 in hush money on July 1 via 20 creep aides, including $25,000 to McCord's wife, erased 18 minutes of tape on June 20, Rosemary Woods's accidental stretch, and shredded 50 documents, including 10 Hunt memos. The Senate Watergate Committee, chaired by Sam Ervin with 20 senators, held 50 hearings in 1973, televised to 85% of U.S. households, exposing the Oval Office taping system with 50 microphones, 3,700 hours, and 200 incriminating tapes. The October 20, 1973, Saturday Night Massacre, saw Nixon fire Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox after a 50-tape subpoena, forcing Attorney General Elliot Richardson and Deputy William Ruckelshaus to resign. Leon Jaworski's appointment as Special Prosecutor amid 50% disapproval, Gallup, and 200 protests in 50 cities, including 10,000 in D.C., intensified pressure. Nixon's enemies list, compiled by Charles Colson, targeted 20 journalists, e.g., Daniel Schorr, 10 activists, e.g., Jane Fonda, and 5 senators, e.g., Edward Kennedy, with 50 IRS audits, 20 FBI files, and 10 wiretaps, violating Fifth Amendment rights. Despite 20 warnings from Pat Buchanan, 10 from John Ehrlichman, and 5 from Henry Kissinger about legal risks, Nixon's paranoia, fueled by 50 Vietnam leaks and 20 Pentagon Papers articles, blinded him. The Supreme Court's 8-0 United States vs. Nixon ruling on July 24, 1974, ordered 50 tapes released, including the smoking gun, proving obstruction. Facing 50 House impeachment articles, 27 for obstruction, 10 for abuse of power, 13 for contempt, and 10 Senate counts, with 27% approval, Gallup, and 200,000 protest letters, Nixon resigned on August 9, 1974, in a 14-minute TV address to 200,000 TVs, citing loss of political base. Gerald Ford's pardon on September 8, 1974, for all offenses, sparked 50% opposition, Gallup, and 200 protests, including 5,000 in San Francisco. Post-presidency, health, and legacy. Retiring to La Casa Pacifica, a 5,500-square-foot estate in San Clemente bought for $340,000 in 1969, Nixon lived with Pat, 2 Secret Service agents, and 5 staff. He wrote 10 books, including R.N., The Memoirs of Richard Nixon, 1978, 500,000 copies, 20 chapters, 1,120 pages, The Real War, 1980, On Soviet Threats, and No More Vietnams, 1985, earning $2 million in royalties. He traveled 100,000 miles to 50 countries, including 5 China trips, 1976 to 1985, 10 Mideast visits, and 20 European summits, advising 5 presidents, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, on 20 issues, including 10 SALT II talks and 5 Gorbachev meetings. Health struggles included a 1974 phlebitis requiring 20 days in Long Beach Memorial Hospital, a 1978 stroke impairing 10% of his speech, 1985 prostate cancer treated with 5 surgeries, and a 1994 cerebral hemorrhage. Nixon died on April 22, 1994, at age 81 in New York Hospital, after a 2-day coma. Buried in Yorba Linda beside Pat, died June 22, 1993, of lung cancer. His funeral drew 5,000 mourners, 200 dignitaries, including 4 ex-presidents, and 50 eulogies from Bill Clinton, Henry Kissinger, and Bob Dole at the Nixon Library, with 10,000 flowers and 200 flags. Nixon's legacy is a study in contrasts. His foreign policy, SALT I, the China opening, Vietnamization, reshaped global alliances, with 50 trade deals and 20 summits. Domestically, the EPA, OSHA, and $10 billion state grants endured, aiding 200 cities. Yet Watergate, driven by paranoia and hubris, birthed 20 ethics laws, including the 1974 Campaign Finance Act, limiting $1,000 donations, and 1978 Ethics in Government Act, mandating 5-year financial disclosures. The 50-man plumbers, 50 illegal ops, and enemies list violated democratic norms, while the cover-up $75,000 hush money, 18-minute tape erasure, and Saturday Night Massacre eroded trust, with 70% of Americans, Gallup, 1974, distrusting government post-resignation. As the only president to resign, Nixon's fall remains a cautionary tale of power's perils, studied in 50 political science texts and 20 documentaries like All the President's Men.